It's important to understand that since World War II, most modern science is funded by the government, by gigantic bureaucratic funding agencies such as the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, NASA, the Department of Defense in the United States. There was a large transformation of science during and after World War II from small-scale, often independent research to huge centralized government programs. That has made an enormous difference in the conduct and realities of science, created very strong pressures on scientists. This is not a new problem. It was recognized by President Eisenhower, who warned about it in his famous farewell address. Many people have heard of the military-industrial complex and his warning about the power of the military and the defense. But he warned about two things, actually: the military-industrial complex and what he called the scientific technological elite. This was from personal experience with the aftermath of Sputnik, with attacks on his very hardline administration for not spending enough money on nuclear weapons and other activities. Attacks on him that were again based on the notion of science and the fear generated by the Sputnik event. So this is a short segment, about 2 minutes, from Eisenhower's farewell address, where he speaks on the danger of the scientific technological elite.
Akin to and largely responsible for the sweeping changes in our industrial military posture has been the technological revolution during recent decades. In this revolution, research has become central. It also becomes more formalized, complex, and costly. A steadily increasing share is conducted for, by, or at the direction of the federal government. Today, the solitary inventor, tinkering in his shop, has been overshadowed by task forces of scientists in laboratories and testing fields. In the same fashion, the free university, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. For every old blackboard, there are now hundreds of new electronic computers. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
Eisenhower and his contemporaries were very influenced by the enormous, spectacular success of the wartime Manhattan Project, which developed the first nuclear reactors and atomic bombs. That success, from 70 years later, appears to have been a fluke. It seemed to be an example where the government could organize a quasi-military, massive, heavily funded, staffed program with the best and the brightest and make an incredible breakthrough. And there have been many attempts to reproduce that with cancer, with controlled nuclear fusion, with many, many fields where it simply failed. Most new Manhattan projects, and you can find if you search with Google or other search engines for a new Manhattan project, they're being sold, promoted all the time, but they frequently, usually, fail. They don't reproduce the success of the Manhattan Project. And that's something to keep in mind. This idea that if you just give scientists enough money and resources and superfund them and have a centralized military-style organization, you're going to get results, has failed many, many times. Yes, there's the success of the Manhattan Project. We can hope that Operation Warp Speed, the vaccines for the coronavirus pandemic, will succeed, but we shouldn't count on it because usually these things fail. Despite this huge government funding, there remains an illusion of independence in scientists. because most are directly employed by universities such as Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, and many others. Much science is conducted by a small handful of maybe a dozen to 24 at most big-name research universities like Harvard or Caltech or the University of Illinois. But those universities depend mostly on government funding. Academics, professors will actually list how much money they've brought in grants or contracts from the government on their resumes. That's very important. The universities are able to charge large amounts of overhead on all of these contracts and grants, which support all kinds of activities. The contracts and grants cover very frequently the summer salaries of the tenured faculty and other benefits for the tenured faculty. Despite tenure, if you're not able to bring in contracts and grants from usually the government or some other source, your supposedly secure job is often at risk in academia. Now, you may see academics griping about the government, sometimes griping about Donald Trump. That's a pretty safe target. High-profile academic dissidents, such as the linguist Noam Chomsky, usually stay well away from truly taboo topics that are often labeled as conspiracy theories, like the Kennedy assassination, the questions about it, and there are scientific and technical questions about it, pseudoscience, or both, that is, they're labeled both conspiracy theories and pseudoscience, or sometimes denialism. So it's largely an illusion. Scientists working for universities are frequently really dependent on these government agencies like the National Institutes of Health or the Department of Energy. And bad things happen to them if they make those people angry. The federally funded academic research system is a pyramid scheme with many, many more PhDs produced than long-term faculty or staff positions. So people are recruited for very low pay, sometimes no pay, sometimes they're borrowing to do this. They're getting student loans to do this, to study science and act as apprentices or trainees or, the exact status of the PhD students, the graduate students and postdocs is fuzzy. Are they students? Are they apprentices? Are they, junior people who are being sort of mentored and guided? They are cheap labor, and the system produces anywhere from 5 to 20 times more PhDs in most fields, such as physics, my field, than there actually are jobs. Many of those PhD graduate students and postdocs don't realize this. There are continual claims of terrible shortages of scientists. Despite this, these claims are totally false. In fact, the vast majority of people that get PhDs in scientific fields end up leaving those fields to work in other fields, especially various forms of software engineering and data analysis, which really often is like software engineering today. There's a never-ending supply of young, cheap, often starry-eyed workers, and this is brought about by constant government promotion of this false notion that there is a shortage, when the truth is exactly the opposite. There's an oversupply. This overproduction of PhDs, this oversupply, means that there's a huge number of younger, hungry PhDs to take the jobs of the tenured faculty, the principal investigators on these government grants and contracts, the senior scientists in government labs. If they rock the boat, they could easily be replaced. They have well-paid jobs. They have a lot of perks. Theoretically, they have job security, but the reality is there's lots of people out there to replace them. It's very dangerous to go against whatever the funding agencies are promoting.
This concludes this video presentation. If you like this video, please click like. Please click subscribe and the notification bell if you would like to receive more content from us. You can avoid internet censorship by subscribing directly to our RSS news feed. Please consider sharing the link by email and on your website or blog, in addition to liking, upvoting, or sharing on increasingly censored, advertising beholden, big company social media. We have encountered such censorship. Mathematical software is developing algorithms and software to automate data analysis, reducing the risks of costly errors and increasing the predictive power of the results. You can support our work financially by subscribing on our Patreon page, https://www.patreon.com/mathsoft, or scanning the QR code in the lower right corner.